Welcome to yet another episode of the Think QA podcast powered by SDET Tech. As you all know, this is a podcast where we talk all things quality assurance, quality engineering, software testing, cybersecurity, AI, and so much more. This is also a podcast where we celebrate entrepreneurs, their journeys, we learn from their wisdom, their insights about the latest trends in the industry. The guest today on our show is an entrepreneur living his life with a purpose, standing at the very intersection of governance and technology, driving real change where it matters the most. He's not the one to overlook societal problems. In fact, he has committed his life to solving it through his GovTech startups. Amit is a serial social entrepreneur. He has founded 3 startups: SimplerToday.ai, EasyGov, which was later acquired by Reliance Jio, and his latest venture, Empower Panchayat. Amit is a mentor at IIT Mandi, IIT Kanpur. Among multiple accolades that he has earned through his incredible body of work, he has also earned 4 patents and collaborations with 5 different governments, all by working and solving real problems at the grassroots level. In the episode today, we'll talk to Amit about a variety of topics: GovTech, social protection, cybersecurity, AI, and so much more. This is going to be a cracker of an episode, guys, so stay tuned. Hi, Amit. How are you doing today?
All good. Thank you for having me here.
It's our honor and pleasure and privilege for us to be sitting next to you, Amit. So, Amit, you have worked with SDET, and SDET is a quality assurance company at its core. What is the role of quality assurance in AI? And how was your experience working with SDET? As quality assurance, of course, plays a huge role across industries, right? Public, private, whatever it might be, you need quality assurance, right? And governance, of course, becomes extremely critical and integral to quality assurance. So what is the role of quality assurance in AI and in your AI-led startups? How do you see quality assurance?
A lot, right? And I would say that with the advancement of a technology, whatever we discussed, the principles we are talking about a lot. And I also a big fan of I forgot what is the abbreviation of that thing, but I will talk about few things that includes like auditability, explainability. It talks about a data minimalistic principle. Okay, so you know what? The quality assurance has a now much bigger responsibility.
Right.
And that is that they compliance with the regulations.
Right.
So till the time we didn't have the regulations much on a data side. Now because whole world is moving in this direction and every country is coming with their own law, right, the quality assurance is a huge. Quality assurance is right now in the place where they can command a soft power.
Right.
Right. It's like that I can decide that the Facebook will not function in this country anymore, right? Because I have found that they don't align compliant with my own data laws, my own data act and a framework.
Right.
So the industry has to now become a serious one, right? So I will not say that it was not a serious one, but there was a very different thing.
Right.
You talk about data privacy.
It's taken a lot seriously today than it was 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the reason is, right, I want to know. And I was just talking to someone and I said, can you innovate one thing for me? And you were asking me, tell me some good startup idea. So I said on a quality assurance only.
Okay.
And can you have something on my phone, an app kind of a thing, where I just put up a button and it tells me that how many apps are consuming my data, at what rate, for what purpose, right? And a single command where I can control, right, all my data, right? So I said that, for example, when I want to share, let's say my current location with you on a WhatsApp, and you ask me to share a live location. So I go, so go change your setting.
Right.
First,
right.
allow. Right. From need basis to always.
Yeah.
And there is a technical merit to it. Right. And what is the technical merit? That if I'm not put always, right, it will not be able to share my location for next 30 minutes. But it doesn't give me the option that one more option that for next 30 minutes. It is giving me here in the WhatsApp.
Right.
But it is not giving me in the permissions. Right? Ideally, it should give me the permission.
Right.
That I am granting that permission only for 30 minutes to WhatsApp.
Yeah, because there are only 3 options, right?
There are only 3 options.
Never.
Allow for this app.
And
Always.
always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why only 3 options? Right? So if there is a super app who can basically in a very simple language tell me that, look, this is your risk exposure. This is how much you have been exposed right now.
And real time.
In real time, right? Some bit of AI and stuff.
Yeah.
And it says that, okay, do you want to control your risk exposure? Right? So I said, I want to control the way you have a CIBIL score, right? 90 and you want to improve it. I want to control my risk score somewhere from 90 to let's say 70. Okay, these are the recommended action that you should do, right? And don't worry, I am your agent or a bot. I will do it on your behalf. I will go into your phone. I will change the permissions on a dynamic basis. So I think this is right fascinating time for QA to in this data world. And my experience with SDET was amazing, phenomenal. I think it's a great team, and this is a classic thing that you are doing this podcast. Very professional people, right? I never had that kind of a problem that I'm having a review, and something comes from the culture.
Right.
And if you have a culture where you do business, everyone does business to make money,
right?
But you put your own heart, you try to think the client as your own business,
right?
And
you take accountability.
And
transparency. I think these have been playing really well for, and I would say the topmost attributes of SDET, and I think
these are also aligned with our digital democracy.
Digital democracy, yes.
So you are not monopolistic, you are democratic.
And your couple will be elated to hear that coming out of you. This is great. So we now that we are on the subject of quality assurance, Amit, your thoughts, okay? You think, how can you... So it's a 2-part question. First, do you think agentic AI has the potential to replace testers or QAs? And how do we actually test given the scarcity of data? Or some people say that the data is biased, right? We spoke about music. So how do we tread this difficult dilemma where even the agentic AI models need testing, and at the same time it is replacing, and people have started perceiving it as a threat?
Correct. So, and if something that you have built even for a testing that is built on a monopoly and a black box system,
yes,
right, you will never know, right? And that's why this thing is, and where I think that we have to compromise a bit on, let's say, on a quality aspect, the overall quality, and we should try to do something that is more in our control, right? So if I have to put an agent versus let's say I have to put an AI agent versus a manual agent, I have a choice between these two,
right?
We should go for a hybrid, right? Okay. And why hybrid? So that at least we have a control on the use cases and the data and everything, and we are not completely dependent on that.
Right.
And so what we were discussing earlier also, it's not an easy thing to do, because you have to go deep into the agentic AI.
Right.
That how can you have an agent that works on a 2 model, one that you have built for your own purpose, that is driven by your own data set, and the one that is leveraging the the other data set like the ChatGPT or anything, whatever, right? So, and now you're taking a hybrid kind of a thing, right? And then this super agent is, so you're actually you're not putting a manual agent, but you're putting your own agent kind of a model.
Okay.
That is in your control, and that is a kind of a layer on top of this the monopolistic layer. So at
more
least
like you're auditing the data that is coming out of that hybrid model.
Correct. And you're also reverse feeding your own system as well, and that system.
Right.
So it will be a bit of a costly affair, but over a long run, you may realize that, it seems like that there are certain set of queries that I am able to answer with my own model, right? So can I put up now a query qualifier on top of it? If this kind of a query coming, indigenously use my model.
Got it.
Right? And slowly gradually start shifting from this bucket to that bucket.
So we spoke Indian digital public goods, Amit, they are globally praised. The prime example is UPI, right? So does this not then again warrant as a government, right, for data security to localize it?
Localize it, I didn't get it. Sorry.
So data localization for security, right? Should the government not, given that, see, we spoke about this hybrid approach,
Right. So I understood, and now I understood what.
I mean,
where
do you
to.
think you think government should prioritize data localization for security
I think
reasons?
this is again a classic debate, and I have my own thesis on this, and not like I have built that thesis, but influenced greatly by the way the digital public good philosophy has been built by the amazing team, Nandan Kani, led by Red Pramod and everyone, Sanjay. They are working on it, and also some European countries and that they have done. And the simple answer is the owner of a data should have all the rights on their own data.
Right.
So that can be only possible if the data is stored right in like multiple places and in the control of a respective owner. Now, for example, right, government has given you the welfare money.
Right.
Should government have your profile or not? Right. So someone will say that they need it for the auditability purpose.
Right.
But will they need your complete profile for auditability purpose? There where the concept of data minimalistic principle comes. So I think Xroad is a open source tool. It's a classic. I'm a big fan of Xroad. And on the Xroad philosophy, we have built our digital public good account aggregator. Right, where we are processing the loan request without the actual movement of a data. So every data is localized, and it is with the owner. There's no movement of a data. Right, but still the query is getting served. Now, for example, let me put in this example, and this is my classic one. You are traffic police. Right, I am a driver and I violated a traffic signal. Right, you want to cut a challan to me, give me a ticket to me.
Right.
What will you do? Right, you will say that Amit, give me your driving license. I said no, you don't need my driving license. Why do you need my driving license? Right, you need only two information.
Right? The registration number?
No, you don't need my registration number. Your law says that this person has jumped the red light.
Right.
You need only two information: whether this person is authorized to drive the vehicle that person is driving right now or not. You don't need to know how many type of vehicle I am authorized to drive.
Right.
You need to know that as of today, the license is valid or not. Right? If it is fine tomorrow, none of your business.
Right.
Right? You need this just two information. For that, these informations are present in front of you. The person is there in front of you.
Right.
So you will just send a query to two different departments. One, let's say, to the vehicle registration department, that this vehicle is owned by this person or not.
Registered in.
Yes or no. The second is driving license information. The answer is yes and no. Now, interestingly, the license doesn't have a identity of a person.
Right.
Identity is into some other database that is localized somewhere else. And that, so there are 100 localized data, and every database has the actual data that legally owned by them. Rest, everything is a pointer.
See, but your registration certificate, right? Your vehicle registration certificate has your details. Your license has your details, right? Your personal data, your date of birth.
Ideally, it should not. That's what I'm trying to say. Right. So, for example, your license is a blood group.
Right.
Now the question is where the blood group should be stored. So what I'm arguing, the blood group should not be stored in the transport department. Transport department should have a reference key to the health department where your blood group is stored. In the health department, where the blood group is stored, I as an individual is a custodian of that data. Right? That it's my data. You are only, it's like that in the bank locker, right? We put jewelry and the money. It doesn't become the bank's money, right?
Absolutely.
The bank cannot open it without my consent. They need two keys. So similarly, the data is also there. So my blood group is, though it's there with the health department, but they cannot open it without my consent.
Right.
So
You as a custodian should have control and the right not to share too
correct.
much.
And your driving lessons, what you're reading right now, is actually scattered into 4 databases.
Right.
Your blood group is in the health,
Right.
Your gender may be in the health,
Transportation.
right? Your address is with the, let's say, KYC,
Right.
Your identity with the, let's say, national identity database, a biometric. Your type of vehicle that you're able to drive is with the transport department, right? Your vehicle detail is with the different database where the vehicle registration is. So actually, it's a very localized data, and everyone is holding the data as per their laws.
Right.
And when the query has to be executed, that query transfer all the databases and give you the business result without actually moving any data.
Right now, I think all the information sits with the transportation department, right?
Right.
Because the kind of check that they run, all they need is your registration plate number.
Correct.
And then all your information is there, right?
That's where the problem is. That's where the problem is. And till the time you have when we are talking about that we are against a data monopoly, then we are against a data monopoly for our own government as well, right? It's not about like only the private player, right? If I don't want to tell Google, right, what places I'm visiting throughout my day, neither I want to tell government,
right,
what places I'm visiting today.
So I also wanted to touch upon CEO versus CTO versus CISO, right? This debate. So in a tech startup, Amit, right, who should own or govern the AI ethics, right? In a tech startup, who, according to you, should govern the AI ethics? Is it the CEO? Is it? And whenever a data breach happens, right? I think this will be more interesting. Whenever a data breach happens, is it a technical failure or is it a governance failure?
It's always a governance failure for me.
Right.
The data breach happens, and it's like that. For me, the security is right there in your database table design. It is not a layer on top of it. For example, you're talking about data minimalistic principle. If in your table you are storing the data that you don't need it, whatever security system you put, how does it matter? It's like that I am putting all the gold at one place, right? And then we are saying that I will protect it with the wall of the iron and the security forces.
Right.
The more the gold would be, the more the motivation for the person to break this wall of your iron and everything. The best strategy is don't put the gold. Okay. And if you're putting it the gold, you're putting it like a puzzle, right? There are 50, 60 databases,
right?
And every piece there is a puzzle. If you're
building more layers,
more distributed, right? Localized,
right?
And more controlled by relevant laws at the different level. So now this person to make a sense, even to generate this driving license, the person has to break 4 databases,
right?
And every database needs your consent.
Right.
Till the time it is not broken all 4 databases,
right,
it will not make sense. So for me, security is a governance problem. And we don't design the system, those are secure. And then once we have put all the gold into the system, then we start protecting it. Like now let's build a wall, right? Because we were gold.
But the blame is often shared between the CTO and CISO.
No,
it's seldom do you hear CEO taking the blame for the
I would say that CEO should take a blame, but I would say that the CTO should now also understand that this is their responsibility. Right now, I'm talking more as a co-founder. Usually in a tech firm,
right,
CTO would be a co-founder.
Because we often attribute governance to CEO and technical and tech to CTO. And then when it comes to cybersecurity, it's
I
the
put it in
CISO.
a slightly different way, more from a startup perspective. I say that a startup has only 2 jobs, to make and to sell.
To make and to sell. Okay.
2 jobs, right? CEO is to sell, CTO is to make. So anything that is happening wrong is a CTO's responsibility. CEO job is only bring money into the company, nothing else. Whether they get it from the customer or they get it from the investor, the CEO is only responsible to get money into the company. CTO is responsible to build it, to make it. So from that perspective, I would say it's a CTO's responsibility. Yeah, but if you look at the corporate structure and everything, then I would say it's a CEO's responsibility. Not from a startup point of view, but a matured corporate, then it's a CEO's responsibility. The governance. And it's a purely a governance issue. It's not a technology issue. I think we have fooled around ourselves a lot, right, by putting up a layer and selling more and more policy things. A poorly designed system cannot be secured.
No, this is what I mean. I have been doing cybersecurity for the longest time, right? for 13 years of my life, this is what we do, right? At an architectural level, if your systems are designed insecure, no amount of layer cybersecurity solutions can actually prevent you from being affected by a breach, right? So it has to be done at the inception level. You have to. Cybersecurity long has been the afterthought.
Right.
I think before you think of an idea, right? Think it along with how you can build and make it more secure.
It's part of your business model.
Yes. Yeah. It has to be in the very DNA, right? Security.
Yeah, it has.
And that's why I think that reporting structure should also change. I know we
I think I'm touching on your reporting structure point of view. I think it should be always outsourced. And the reason is, you have to learn from the matured systems. In the government, right? Because I'm from a government side, there is a CAG, no?
Right.
Whose job is to audit the work of the government.
Right.
Right? Why the CAG has direct reporting to the President of India? Why not to via Prime Minister? They will never audit in a true sense. Right? Why Election Commission has been given the independent authority? Why we say that our democracy is a three-pillar: judiciary, execution, the parliament, right? The legislative and the executive. And why there should be a independence among those things. So I think it should be outsourced. And anyways, from a startup point of view, you have a limited resources, you have a limited money. So you will never
outsource.
We will never be able to build that kind of a team that you need actually.
Right.
Right. And
while it makes sense for bigger corporates and people who have that kind of.
I'm saying
does this stand? I mean, in your opinion, you think it's only startups
should
outsource?
I'm saying startup is like extreme case. Right. They not only from a principal point of view of security, from a finance point also they should not
makes sense for startups to outsource.
But let's say large company, let's say finance is not an issue.
Right.
For them, from a philosophy point of view, it should be outsourced. Right? It should be outsourced because eventually, right? And even I do not know how much ethics is still governing this industry. But let's say if I'm a CEO and I have outsourced, right? It should be a relationship like I run a company, right? We run a company, and we have a chartered accountant, and then we have an auditor,
right?
Right? Why government has restricted that your CA cannot be your auditor? It has to be a separate firm.
Right.
Independent evaluation. Okay. And why I was joking, like we know that we can manipulate the auditor as well, right? Because eventually auditor is also getting paid from the CEOs only, right? But if let's say people say that go for a PwC as auditor, the PwC will not be able to manipulate it easily, right?
Influenced,
but then something happens.
Yeah.
Then PwC also get exposed, right? So. Okay. But eventually CEO has a money, right?
I almost started to think that there's light at the end of the tunnel, but
it's a ethics of a CEO. That is the only light.
Right.
It's the ethics of a CEO that is the only light. And if there's an ethical CEO, first thing he will do, that he will never do it inside the company. Second thing, the person will not try to influence the auditor. Right? Genuinely will talk to the auditor. Right? So if these two things happens, then only I think we can think of.
And I think that is where companies like SDET can add immense value, right? I mean, it's a company that is an independent software testing
and my
company.
message to all the promoters and the founders, never try to influence your auditor.
Right.
In long run, right, you may get your job done. You may be able to save some money.
Right. These are just some short term. And you're being extremely myopic in your vision also.
Correct.
Right? I mean, to pay off the auditors and say that, okay, because compliance is, I would not say all, but some companies take them as just a tick mark. It's just a tick in the box.
The way we don't think security as a part of our business, we also think that this is also a headache.
Yes.
Right. We just need to get rid of this. Right.
Yeah.
Get the certificate and keep moving.
Right.
Government tender needs a certain certificate. Get it.
Just the other day, I was on a call with this potential client, and his problem statement was, although our system is secure, but my customer is expecting an independent security audit. So for me, it's just a tick box exercise, and that is why I just want to get it done. And although we have made the system secure, I said, who tested it? So my team did it. I said, that's why they ask.
That's why they ask.
That's why they ask. You get it evaluated by an independent auditor, cybersecurity company. They'll be extremely unbiased in their results. Right?
And that's why I think that what you asked, it's very fundamental. You can't have a checker and a writer write the same person. You will not give the student the first two answer sheet to write and then
to grade himself. Yeah.
You can influence a teacher.
Yeah.
You can influence a teacher as well.
Yeah.
But it will be slightly difficult then.
So, one last question, Amit. See, AI, the sad fact is that AI is adversely impacting jobs. Right. And people above 40, right? I mean, we read it in the news also, an article came out. People above 40 are at the highest risk of losing their job.
Correct.
Why is that so? Why has that? Why is it serving as a fear among people above 40? What should they do not to be impacted, right, in this AI first race?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm also in that group, like above 40.
That's why it's going to be interesting, right? So I can't wait for you to share your opinion on this, because it's true, right? It's true, and it's backed by facts. People are, in fact, I don't know if it's Microsoft that laid off people.
Yeah, everyone. Largely, everyone is laying off people.
Right.
So I will start with a quote that is not my quote, but it is quoted well, and I'm with that quote. AI will not going to replace people.
Right.
People with AI will replace people without AI.
Interesting.
Okay. So I firmly believe this, right? And what professional has to do, even like 40s or maybe below 40s, they have to learn AI. Because AI is not a risk. People with AI is your competition. They are the risk. If you can overcome that risk, you're secured. Don't worry. Chill out. Right? For that, right, you have to get into the concept. Try to think, right? Learn how AI will going to. The good thing is the courses are available like online, free of cost. Recently, I was doing a course from MIT, right, on this foundational models.
Right. You're also, I think it's important for our listeners to know that you're also pursuing a PhD in AI.
Yeah, I'm doing a PhD in AI.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't, maybe I'm not at the risk because I'm the one who's with AI.
Yeah, right.
Right. So the people who are without AI, they should.
So it's not
me.
People with AI that's the problem. It's people without AI.
It's people with people.
It's people with people.
Right. So it's not, AI will not do anything.
Right.
The people with AI will do everything. Okay. And that's the first part. Second part is the monopolistic nature of our economics. It is not something that is happening right now. The economic divide is a reality, right? And that will keep on happening. So the concentration of wealth will get to the fewer people. Right. And whenever the concentration happens, it's a middle layer who gets impacted the most. Right? Because one point in time,
and that
they were the most
concentration
powerful
is getting
layer.
thicker year on year, right? It is the amount of wealth possessed by, a certain
top.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Economic divide is increasing.
Yes.
So has it started increasing after the AI? Answer is no. It is increasing since Industrial Revolution.
Right.
The same debate was happening when the Industrial Revolution happened.
Right.
The supervisors on the floor were very powerful.
Right.
Because they used to control labor. They were the middle management. The machine came.
Right.
They said that too, we don't need supervisor. Right? The machine will do the job of a supervisor. The labor will do. The same thing is happening in the AI.
Right.
And as a manager, we don't need manager.
And then it was people who knew how to operate or people who were welcoming of those machines. And I think today, it should be people welcoming AI with open hands. Embrace it. It is here to stay. I mean, there's no point being delusional about it.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you're at the risk of
losing your job.
Right. Then if you're not learning, right, and my message is not to only tech people.
Right.
I'm saying any profession whatsoever, the AI will get into every profession.
Right.
So I would say
already is. It already is.
I would say that doctor with AI has a fear of getting doctor without AI has a fear of getting replaced by doctor with AI.
I'm married to one, so I mean, we've had some interesting discussions on AI and how it can. But I mean, to her credit, she sees it as an enabler.
Yeah,
And that is where we are aligned.
wonderful.
So, right off the bat, why did you choose to make a career, or even as a social entrepreneur, why did you choose GovTech?
I think it goes back more than 20 years back. I was doing my MBA, and that time I was also preparing for civil services. And I happened to do my summer training in Sitapur district of Uttar Pradesh under a collector who was also an IIT and IIT Kanpur graduate. So I built a system for public grievance redressal as part of my summer training. And when I came back, I got a mix of few things. First thing is the real transformation is there in the government. And second thing that also I realized, the people who are a bureaucrat, even an IAS officer, their hands are very tight with the politician and the ecosystem that they operate in. So they cannot bring that transformative change. So that time I thought that I will do public services, but not being part of the government. Yeah, but after 20 years, I can say the politics is the best way to transform the governance, not an entrepreneur.
So how does it differ from a traditional tech startup, right? How does a GovTech startup differ from a traditional tech startup?
So GovTech, I think there are three main differences if you want to find out. The first thing is there are so many laws in the government, and you have to be learned for all the laws,
right?
To basically to work in the GovTech space. For example, you're running a company, right? So you need to know maybe the Provident Fund law, ESIC law, right? And then the income tax laws, GST laws. But usually as an entrepreneur, what you will do, you will outsource to your chartered accountant. They will take care of all these things, right? But as a GovTech consultant, you have to get into the laws.
Okay.
Because let's say, for example, I built an EasyGov, one AI system to find out deprivation, who is more deprived to get a particular benefit.
Right.
Now, in India, you have a RTI, Right to Information Act.
Right.
That says any government decision can be challenged by anyone, and government is bound to respond within 30 days why they have behaved in a certain way.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if you use AI that is opaque, that cannot answer, it will never fly in the government. So you have to find out an algorithm that can be auditable, that can be explainable, then only it can respond to the RTI query. So, for example, in EasyGov, I decided to use Bayesian algorithm and a decision tree because these are the two algorithms, those are auditable and explainable. So, yeah, that's the one difference probably I would say. Second is, I love people who are very aspirational from money point of view. But for the GovTech, if someone wants to build a career, not as an entrepreneur, but also as a professional, they have to put the country first. They have to put the people first. So there has to be a sense of social entrepreneurship, right? Or there's a sense of contributing to the society,
doing something for the country,
for the people, right? There are so much problem around. So if you don't have that calling from your inside, maybe the GovTech is not a right space for you, right?
If money is your motivation factor, then GovTech. Is it safe to say that can you make money in GovTech?
Yes, you can. There are the countries where government promotes procurement from the startup, and the Indian government also starting with the Ministry of Defense. But our procurement that is biased towards the startup, that is more toward the sovereignty, right? So you have to understand this also, right? We are a democracy. In fact, US is also a democracy that way. But what I'm trying to say here is, if you are deploying taxpayer money. Taxpayer money cannot be deployed for the risk capital.
Got it.
So I have given my tax to the government, right? Not to do the betting on a startup. Though I'm a GovTech startup, but I would never recommend that government should give money to the startup.
Right.
That's not their job. But at the same time, now the way the things have changed in the last 5-10 years, the startup are contributing to the economy of the country. Right. They are creating the employment in the country. So though the government is not a venture capitalist, but government should take that risk now if they want to promote the innovation and the ecosystem building, if you want to create the employment. So it's a very interesting take.
But why are not many people taking this up as a career, or because there are only so many GovTech startups?
Mm-hmm.
So is it because I think it's given that government, the way it operates, right? I mean, it is a closed loop system, right? Does it become limiting in a sense that, you, like you said, I mean, some people feel tired, stifled, and it could be due to various factors, lack of support from the government, or has it been a good ride for you collaborating with government? Because I see, you've worked with 8 Indian states and 5 different countries. So your varied experience, if you can just throw some light on that.
Yeah, short answer first, right? Do you want to join politics?
No, I don't wish to join politics.
Why?
Why I don't wish to join politics? I think I am, my motivation to do anything in life, because of whatever circumstances, while growing up, and the way, the kind of life I have led, right? I like money. Money serves as and like we said, and also,
Do you think in this country politician doesn't make money?
Politicians make, if I can say it, hell lot of money, right? But I think my motivation is different. Money, of course, is a driving force, but politics, no.
So let me answer that, right? And probably I will help you to decrypt what you just said. The first thing is, we never took interest in the politics.
Right.
We always thought politics or the government is a dirty side of it, right? So, and that's why we take a biased decision. Right. Without knowing the subject, we say that we don't want to study this subject.
Right.
Right. So that's the reason why people don't choose GovTech as a career option.
Why? And even while growing up, it was never served as a career option,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Engineering, medical, law, right? And even fashion and, other co-curricular.
So,
right?
the government is among the top buyer of any product, right? But when we started studying the industries, we take interest in energy as an industry, right? We take a transportation, aviation, e-commerce, fintech, right? So everything that we take interest. But once you want to study government is the biggest buyer. The government is that decides that how you lead your life in your country.
Right.
But you don't want to understand the governance, right? And that is some part, I think, to our curriculum as well, right? Maybe the civics is a subject that is...
It's not stressed too much.
Not stressed too much, though it will define everything in your life. When to marry, when to drink.
Right. That's an interesting take. Okay. And you think our government, it provides good support to people who even, plan to endeavor in the GovTech space? What kind of support can you expect from the government and, different state and central both?
Right. So something very interesting that government has done, they have changed in their procurement law to promote the startup, to promote the procurement from the startup. And there are 3 exemptions for the startups. The first one is the longevity, how old the startup is. If the startup is registered with the Startup India program of the Government of India, then they can get rid of this, like you should win the business for last 10 years. Right. Okay. Then there is second criteria that is called turnover. Right. So that the same law, if this says that the solution fits the government demand, then they can get away with the turnover criteria as well. And the third one is the experience criteria. Okay. That how many times you've delivered this project with how many players, right? So typically the government procurement will have these 3 things.
Okay.
So the startup policy of government has already given some relief.
Some waivers.
And then also, government, the problem is government cannot go for innovation. Especially if you talk about the India, right? You have a 3 tender process. 3 tender itself is contradicting to the innovation, because you are saying that whatever government is asking should be available with at least 3 people.
Oh, okay.
Right. So if it is available with 3 people, it is not an innovation. Right. But if you decide to put too much emphasis on the innovation, then the people say that the bureaucrat or a politician has an interest in the particular vendor because of this, his interest into that company, or maybe some arrangement has been done. So
bias, some sort of form of bias creeps in, and
even if there is no bias, even if there is no bias, the auditor will prove that there is a bias. Right? There was a very good thing that happened, and that is called Swiss challenge.
Okay.
Right. So government to procure innovation from the startup, they started Swiss challenge. Yeah. Okay. It's a legal process of procurement in this country. Okay. What it says that if you are really innovative and you have built something that is available with no one in the market, you go reach out to the client and tell them that this is the stuff I have built, and you need it. They said yes, let's go through the price negotiation. Let's say I decide that there is a price that's say 550 crore, right? Okay, so what government will do, remove the price and put this as a tender and ask the other bidder to challenge.
Right.
If you can deliver the same thing what this person is saying, now the government is checking whether it's a truly innovation or not. Right. So someone has to challenge this bid.
Right.
So the private sector will challenge. If you will not find any challenge, then government can give on the price quoted by you. Right. So that is what the Swiss challenge is, and it is legal. But what is unfortunate, there are not many tenders that has happened through Swiss challenge, because the one tender that has happened very early on a Swiss challenge, there was a CBI inquiry that has happened on the people who were involved from the government side doing this procurement. So that they scared the whole machinery.
Right.
And that much that though there is a law, but no one is willing to take that bite, right? Take that bullet.
Okay. Is awareness also an issue there?
Awareness is not awareness is definitely an issue, because if something is not being used, people will not be aware of. Not aware. So, but I have
how to exercise.
Right. But during my career, because I worked with the 5-7 state government, so every time I proposed the state government the first method of a procurement as a Swiss challenge. Right. But then I realized that the government will never go to that path. Right, because of the risk associated with the Swiss challenge.
And I think awareness also is an issue that you try to tackle with your first startup, EasyGov, right?
Correct.
You try to eliminate the 54% error rate, right, in exclusion of or inclusion,
correct,
right? Yeah. So can you tell us more about what was the purpose behind starting something like EasyGov? Right.
Yeah, so I worked in social protection space for around 10 years. And then I realized that there is a huge error of exclusion. And as you rightly said, 54% globally. Right. And there is no shortage of money. The money that is being spent is huge, $15 trillion globally. In India, around 10 lakh crore plus money has been spent on social protection. So I thought that something is not right? The government intent is there, because in democracy, if you're not pleasing the people, if you're not doing this social protection, you will lose the election.
Right.
And there is a money on the table. And then there is an error of exclusion in the tune of 54% globally, and in India, 28%. So I thought that this is a very interesting problem, because I think that all the stakeholders are aligned. People need social protection.
Right.
Government wish to do that because they want to win elections.
Yet.
Forget about the other moral part to it, right? And so I thought that there is, I think it's something is broken from a process point of view. So if I can fix up the process with the help of a technology, it will be a greater startup. So that's why I started EasyGov.
And how did you solve that problem? What exactly did EasyGov entail?
So I will try to keep it very short, right? The problem of the social protection is who is beneficiary? Labharthi kaun hai? Period, right? So in fact, you mentioned the 4 patents that I had.
Right.
So they all are around only this single line, Labharthi kaun hai? Who is beneficiary? So we defined as EasyGov that the someone who is eligible, verified and deprived is a beneficiary.
Okay.
Right? So eligible as per the policy rules, largely objective. Verified, the data has been verified for that person. And among them, because the money will be not that much, money will be short. So if you can find out who is more deprived, right? And then I prioritize those people, with the help of a deprivation score, marginalized, and then I give the money. So this is what I built. So when I was talking about the technology, so for the eligibility part, we use decision tree as a technology to build the eligibility. For the verification part, we took the principle of Estonian government and later on adopted by the Indian government as well as part of account aggregator, that is not need to know basis information exchange, right? And going to the philosophy of one data, one owner, for the verifying the data. And then deprivation, again, we used Bayesian algorithm to find out that who is more deprived, right? So if these 3 things can be done by the technology, the whole system can be streamlined. And there is no need of a bureaucrat to work on this. So So whole idea was, because anyways we have a limitation of bureaucrats at the ground level. So I wanted to make every bureaucrat free of this task, and everything is happening through technology, and this will bring transparency into the system. So this will lead to reduction in the error of exclusion. So this is what we achieved in EasyGov, but we also hit a roadblock.
Okay.
Right, and that's the reason I'm not like serial entrepreneur just for the sake of it, right?
I've tackled real problems, and that's
just to tackle a real problem.
Yeah.
And if so, I came up with the vision statement to make social protection progressive, inclusive, and adaptive. Okay. So
we'll take a moment to progressive,
inclusive, and adaptive.
Okay.
So progressive is, you know, that Sri Lankan economy got collapsed.
Yes.
And the many states have been literally bleeding, like Maharashtra with the Ladli scheme, even Karnataka government, the political promises that they have made. People make the promises and then they don't have the money to fulfill it. And once the government is formed,
is it the lack of money or lack of intention?
Lack of money. It's the economics problem. Simple. Right? You have committed more than what your budget is.
Okay.
Right? So it's like that you become a philanthropist, right? And you go and start talking to everyone who comes to your house to help you.
You
from your
overcommit
house help, right, to everyone that, look, I will raise your salary to like 25,000, right? And I will also give the medical insurance and life insurance, and your medical treatment will be free. You will also get free food whenever you will come, right, work at my place. I will give you 3 meals,
right?
If your children, right, I will sponsor their fees as well. They will get a free education, right, and something.
Too many commitments.
And if you give, right, but you don't have
the money to uphold those commitments. Yeah.
So this is what is happening right now, and this is what I call regressive social protection.
So this, according to you, led to the downfall of Sri Lankan economy?
Yes.
So they overcommitted. So, it's a vicious cycle. How did they get so aspirational in terms of providing, multiple benefits? I know for a fact that, your bank doesn't have enough to actually support your commitments.
So understand the economics. So when you make a budget, right, you take a debt from the World Bank or the state government, and then you factor in the serving the interest against the debt, right? And then you put some money on a salary, you put some money on other expenses, the infrastructure development, the pensions, right? Everything. Now think that your earning is less and the election year has come.
Right.
You have to beat the opposition and you have to commit. Right. And this is not like only for a political party. This is, I say, about the entrepreneur as well. We know the Satyam fiasco in this country that has.
Yeah.
So yeah. So and why this happens? Because the founder who is at the top or the politician who is on a top, he says, first let me get into the power. Then I will solve it. I will take some time and I will definitely going to solve it. Right? And what you do, you get into the vicious cycle. So you take that, okay, let me take a little bit more loan.
Right. You try and raise more capital.
Right? And say that I will.
Basically, it's pumping money into the
system. And that is not your earning, but that is financing through a debt.
Right.
So if the day will come where you will not be able to hold this fort. Right. Your interest itself is more than it's reaching like 50% of your budget.
Right.
So you are earning, let's say in your house, you let me take back this story, saying that you have pleased your maid, right, and your house help, you have committed someone, and then you say that, okay, don't worry, within 3 years, anyways, I will be a millionaire.
Right.
So I will be able to uphold all the promises because my GDP growth rate is this. Right. So I have to just take care of these 3 years.
You extrapolate. And then
correct. So I will say that, okay, there is no harm taking a debt from my friend or bank to fulfill my promises because
I can.
Because
I see. Okay.
Not only I can, because if these people will not be with me, I will not be able to reach there. If the voter is not with me, anyways, I'm not reaching there. Right. It's a tough choice. I have to be in race.
Right.
And
but with their support, there's always a chance. and you're trying to, then you get into this whole debt trap, and
Correct.
right, and then it gets difficult after a point to.
After a point, it's very difficult to come out of this. This is a typical, right? The typical human, right? Any common man.
Are you a big proponent of VC-backed businesses or bootstrap businesses?
Bootstrapped, I prefer, but I will not be biased again, right? So if you are doing a deep research and you have a real moat, right, and that moat is backed by a deep research, then it has to be VC-led.
Okay.
But there is no innovation as such in your business model, then it should be bootstrapped. Okay. For example, if I say WhatsApp kind of a business, right, I will say it should be VC-backed.
Because of the scale?
Not only because of the scale, because the problem that they picked, that was a very difficult technical problem to be solved.
Right.
So for example, if you talk about today, I will say the language stack has to be VC-backed.
Okay.
Right.
Why do you say so?
Because you will not able to make money from a consumer, because you will never be able to provide that quality service. It's not an established market. Right. You are researching, you're innovating. So if I say that I want to build a startup that will do a cross-voice conversation, right? So for example, right, you are speaking Bengali, I am in Tamil, and I built a startup that does nothing. There is no page or anything. It's just a kind of an API that hits your voice, takes me, and we start talking. But that is so seamless that there is no lag in the voice, right? I'm hearing you as real as you are a Bengali, and you are hearing me as real as you are a Tamil, right? So there is no lag.
It sounds as real as coming out of a native.
Right? Now here there is a deep innovation. There are the multiple technical challenges. There is not only one challenge. There are multiple technical challenges. If you are building this kind of a startup,
you need the right talent, and the talent comes at a cost.
And you need massive money. You need a massive money, and that's where I say that the Silicon Valley and the Indian startup ecosystem, from a funding point of view, our funding mechanism is more biased towards the bootstrapped kind of a business, not for the true innovation. For the true innovation, we need not only VC money, but we need a patient VC money. VC can sit without a revenue for 7 years. Right. WhatsApp didn't earn a penny. Right? When it got acquired by for $21 billion, $22 billion, I think. Yeah. And what was the revenue? Zero. Right. VC made a huge lot of money. And so for this some other day, right? And when I go to the IITs, I always talk about that. If any student can tell me what innovation WhatsApp did, right, then there is a chocolate from my side. And this is what I promote entrepreneur.
Right.
Understand, right, what innovation they did and why that was a very difficult innovation, largely on a technology front.
So taking you back to public safety and social protection, Amit, with AI and biometrics rising, right, how do you avoid exclusion of marginalized communities?
So I think AI is the only way you can remove the exclusion.
Okay.
If I take the EasyGov example, I said that there are, as per the policy, there is one set of a labharthi that is more idealistic. Right. For example, if a scholarship has to be given to a student, let's say in Karnataka or in any state, and its scholarship is meant for the OBC. So as per the government policy, it says that the person who is physically challenged, or a girl, or a BPL, should be given a preference for this scholarship.
Right.
So what will put it in this way, that a girl who is a BPL and who is physically challenged, and she is coming to school regularly with the attendance 50 to 60%, let's say, right? She should definitely get this scholarship.
Right. She's the right candidate.
She is the most deprived candidate for this scheme.
Okay.
Right? The eligibility rules are very simple.
Right.
The person studying in the pre-matric belong to the OBC community. Family income is less than 2.5 lakh.
Right.
But if you let this eligibility criteria, then you will find that there are 1 lakh people in a district who are eligible.
Right.
Right. But if you start putting a deprivation, you have money to give, let's say for 40,000. What to do? That's where the deprivation comes into the picture. Preference given to the girl,
right,
physically challenged, a BPL.
Right.
But if you find out that out of 1 lakh, how many are all three. So OBC,
Right.
studying in pre-matric, physically challenged, BPL, girl, attendance 50%.
Okay.
So there are 88.
Okay.
And I'm talking real data, by the way, from EasyGov. It's not like that I'm making up a story.
No, I'm sure.
Right? So that's a real number, 88.
Okay.
If out of 88, 70 are not getting this scholarship, that's where the problem is.
There's the real problem.
That's where the real problem is. Right? You are giving a scholarship to 40,000 people. Why are you excluding the most deprived people who need this benefit?
The most.
The most. In Uttarakhand, there is a research and that says that the villages are converting into the ghost villages.
Yes.
Right? And why they're converting into ghost villages? Because people need two things fundamentally, and that is what the not-for-profit startup is doing, and that is basic amenities and left income opportunities. And you need both.
Right.
So in Uttarakhand, if the pregnancy becomes complicated, people take the pregnant woman on a stretcher for 10 to 12 kilometers just to get to the right hospital.
Right.
Okay, so access to health as a social protection.
Right.
Social protection consists of 4 things: health, housing, education, food. Minimum level. Okay, so here the social protection of the health is not available to this woman.
Right.
God forsake, shouldn't happen that she may lose her life on the way to the hospital. By the way, 1 out of 10 women in Uttarakhand, as per the government stats, lose their life in this situation. Right? So it's not like it's not happening. So what that family will do, the first thing that family will do, that they will leave the village.
Right.
Even before planning for the second child.
Right. They might want to go and settle in a place where there is better infrastructure.
So they will come to the urban side of the country, at least where even if they don't get a fancy hospital, at least they can go to the government hospital, and at least the time can be cut down by from 4 hours to, let's say, 40 minutes or maybe 30 minutes, right? And something can happen. And this is the reason, if you look at the population distribution of this country, when you are younger to me, but when I was studying geography, it was like 76% of India lives in rural India,
right,
and 24% urban. Right now the stat says 65% is rural, 35% urban.
Yeah.
In last 35 years, the urban population has been increased by 10x. And the rural population is almost flat. This migration is not a by choice migration. It's a forced migration because of this hardship.
Survival. Right?
It's survival.
Yeah.
Because of this hardship, this migration is happening.
Right.
And that's where the problem is.
It's sad, but it's true, right? That these villages, and are they doing anything? Do they even have a voice? Is what I want to learn from you. The Gram Panchayats, because our 73rd constitutional amendment, right, where they talk about that the decentralization of power. So do they? But with all this, are these just talks, or do they hold real power to drive change in their local village or in their communities?
Yeah, so let me put it in this way. I have also written a book called Sasakt Panchayat, Samrit Bharat Ki Sankalpana. Maybe after Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj, there are 1 or 2 more books, and then I am the one who has written a book on this topic, Panchayat. Any country in the world is governed by 3 sets of a government: federal government, provincial government, and a local government. Right? When you see the Hollywood movies, it's a mayor or a president.
President, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Mayor is a local government.
Right.
Germany, chancellor. Right? Australia, counties. So these all are local government. Usually, middle government is a defunct government.
Okay.
You can take the example of any developed country. Middle government is a defunct. I would say not defunct, but also so any country is governed with the help of around 200 subjects. So largely the subjects are divided between the federal government and a local government. In the central government, they are very limited subjects because they don't have such a role. And India also, pre-British era, even at the time of Mughal also, it was not that difficult. India has the same structure: the federal government and a local government.
Right.
I'm not sure if you've seen that serial Chanakya, right? And there is a say that when the tax inspector will come to the village, it will ask for the government tax. So what they will do, they will pile up the anaj into 3 bucket, and he will take the one part,
right.
one share of the Raja share. They didn't have the right to audit. They didn't have a right to challenge.
Right.
They could not get into the governance of the village. The village is itself is self-government. So India was beautifully self-government, right? But what happened? The Britishers, because that was the East India Company that wanted to run this country as a company. So they created a business infrastructure. And that's where their administrator was named as a collector.
Okay.
Right? So, we call district magistrate and a collector. It's a Warren Hastings who, because divided the whole India into the revenue villages, and for every village, he put up a target that this much collection should come, and the collector was responsible to collect that revenue. Right? And if the person will not pay for it, then the collector should have power to punish. That's why he became district magistrate.
Okay.
It's unfortunate that the Britishers has gone, but collector and district magistrate still exist in this country. They should be renamed. But will they be renamed? 73rd Amendment asked them to be renamed. Okay. So what happened, right?
But it's yet to be done, is what you're saying?
Yeah, 73rd Amendment, 1992.
Right.
In fact, in our Constitution, Article 40 of the Constitution of India, it says that the power should be given to the local government.
Right.
But when we got the independence, because there was a demand for every province was asking for an independent identity. So we thought that time, and it was a right decision, by the way, that if we devolve the power right now, so there was a fear of this country breaking down into multiple provinces.
Okay.
So it was decided that, okay, though the model of a government is that the local government should be empowered, so we will do it in the future, but right now it's not a right time.
Okay.
So the Article 40 says that it should be done, but when it's after the peace, right? And immediately Jawaharlal Nehru formed a committee called Balwant Rai Mehta Committee, and its job was to assess the situation and do the devolution of power to the local government. Right? So it happened, we took like 34 years, right? Just one committee after another committee. And in 1992, and I respect even Narasimha Rao for that decision, he was a guy who was able to take this decision, and he said that nothing doing, right? I am passing into the parliament. And such decisions has to be taken like a blink, right? Without thinking much about it, and because there is never a right time to transfer a power.
Right.
The Britishers were doing the same thing for the India, right? So anyone, right? Even if you have a subordinate who is working for you, and he will say that I want to take up a responsibility and a power, so you are not ready. The person who is holding a power never sees the other person as ready to take the power. Right? Because he knows that he has to give the power. So that is what happened, right, with the government also. But interestingly, in 1992 we did that, and that is called 73rd Amendment of Constitution of India. 29 subjects power were devolved to the Gram Panchayat, and the funds were created. And the process was supposed to be started for the devolution of a power. Okay. But in last 35 years, 1992, we are in 25, not 35 years, I think slightly, 33 years. 33 years, yes. 33 From 92 to 25. 25. Yeah. Other than Kerala, no other state has been able to devolve the power to the Panchayat. And I'm a big fan of a Gram Sabha concept and a 73rd Amendment. That's why I'm working on Empower Panchayat. Yes. 100 crore people, even after this acute migration that I was talking about, still live in 2.78 lakh Gram Panchayat. That's like the total number of Gram Panchayats we have in the country. In India, we have a 2.78 lakh Gram Panchayat, and 100 crore people live in the Panchayat only. So if you're not improving 60%, 65%, right? 65%. Yeah. So if you don't improve the governance of the Panchayat, there is no way that you can do anything. Bring about a change. Which is their right. And that is something that is right in your front. Whether you look at the developed countries or you look the ancient India. Right. I don't know. Why is it so difficult to understand that this is the only way it can be done? Right. This is, it leaves you thinking, right? Why hasn't it been done yet? Right? Only one state has been able to do it. Yeah, and what is worst is no political party's constitution have this as one of the point.
Right.
that needs to be done.
Exactly why I wanted to ask you, why isn't there much uproar about it? See, it's been 33 years. They're waiting, right? The Gram Panchayats are waiting. So, do you think it is lack of voice, or have they tried enough and then they gave up and they're like, there's no point, it's a futile exercise? Why aren't people putting their voice out there? What are Gram Panchayats doing about it? See, it's their right. It is their
I would
right.
say that
It's
I will not say that like, and I will, these are the very complex topics.
I'm sure.
And if you look from the people point of view, there is a provision what you said, Gram Sabha.
Yes.
So every panchayat should have a Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha is like a Vidhan Sabha or a parliament for a panchayat. Right. Only difference is in the assembly and the parliament, they are elected people.
Yes.
And the Gram Sabha is direct people. Right? So if you're a voter of a Gram Panchayat, you becomes by default member of a Gram Sabha.
Right.
Right? And you can decide whatever. The people even don't know that there is a Gram Sabha. Right? But if you go to the Jharkhand, I have traveled in Northeast and the Jharkhand where the tribal culture is still there. Still, it's a community that resolves the problem. They still have a concept of a Gram Sabha and Anam Sabha.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say, because of the technology or general, there is something that is attributed to the way the society is developing as well. We are getting more selfish. We take less interest into the community things. Right? We are more happy, right, into our nuclear world, what to say, right? And say, right, there is no end of asking for a space. First you ask the space from the society, then you ask the space from your joint family, then you started asking space from each other, like husband, wife, and the children, right?
Putting yourself
and
first.
Then you will start asking space from yourself.
Yes.
Right? Till the time you don't develop the sense of a community, right? It's very difficult. So that is one thing that is hampering the functioning of a Gram Sabha. The way the society has been evolving. The second is the Gram Panchayat, who's like a chief minister of a state government. He thinks that he or she thinks, right, there is a 1/3 reservation of a woman in the Gram Panchayat. So 44% leaders of these Gram Panchayat are women.
Right.
Right. So they think that if the Gram Sabha will start functioning, they will fix up my accountability. So, for example, just think from a state point of view, there is a chief minister, but there is no state assembly. Then the chief minister is an autocratic leader.
Right.
There is no one going to ask. So, what happens if the assemblies will not be function? Then the government of India will put up a precedent rule.
Right.
Because the democracy is not functioning.
Right.
This person is driving like what Musharraf did in Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
So let's cut it down.
Right.
So right now, because the Gram Sabha is not happening, this Gram Pradhan himself has become
an
autocrat. Now, the state government take this as an excuse not to give the power. So, right? So says that, boss, he will corrupt guy and he has no control, right? He has no check. If the Gram Sabha would have been there would have been a checkpoint. The people will put his accountability the way, right, we put the accountability of a CM and a PM. Similarly, his accountability or her accountability can be also fixed. Right? So, that's why I said it's a very complex topic, right?
I'm sure.
But, because there is no way out other than doing this, that's why the way I gone crazy about the EasyGov social protection thing, I am now crazy about this, that
Empower Panchayat.
I will have to do this. I have to do this.
How is it coming along? How's been do you see any friction from the governments?
No, on the face of it, no government will going to say that because it's part of a constitution of India.
Right.
I never do anything that is not written in the constitution of India. Whether it's my EasyGov startup, right, or Panchayat, I will sound like an activist, but I'm not an activist.
Right.
Right. I work strictly on a document on the laws. So the constitution of India is for me is the Bible, right,
But
and for me is the.
Given the adoption, right? I mean, it's very low. It's only one state. So that's why I asked, do you see any friction from the government? And why is it that it's been 33 years? Why has no one even thought of coming up with a solution like Empower Panchayat?
Yeah, I think it's.
What do you think is the reason?
The first thing is the person who has to really act upon this, they are the one who are going to lose the power.
Okay.
So for this kind of a change, right, there has to be a mass public movement.
Exactly why. exactly why I asked, a while back that why isn't there much uproar about it?
There will be, and if you go on a ground, because I have met around 1,000 Gram Pradhan,
right? You have been solving problems at the grassroots level, so I know that
there will be.
Yeah, you are privy to everything that's happening.
But by the way, on a positive side, last week only, 24th of April, there was a Panchayati Raj Divas. Okay. So in a Tatarpur Panchayat of Palwal district in Haryana, I conducted India's first digital Gram Sabha.
First digital Gram Sabha.
Digital Gram Sabha, where everything was AI and a biometric driven.
Yeah.
Right. So the face were captured of the voters. They raised their issues through a voice note. No typing, nothing. टीचर नहीं आ रहा है, नाली में पानी भरा पड़ा है, ठीक है, ये यहाँ पे आंगनबाड़ी की जो व्यवस्था है वहाँ पे वो जो आया है वो नहीं आती है, गांव से कूड़ा नहीं उठ रहा है, सड़क खराब है. People in their local language raised the voice, and I launched within 3 days the launch of this system that I'm talking like 15 days back. We got more than 100 issues, and then our AI compiled, built up an agenda, and the day people walked in for the Gram Sabha, people just showed their face and the attendance was marked. The whole Gram Sabha was recorded on a Jio Meet.
Right.
And then we used AI to create the minutes of a meeting. And then we got a display signed by the Gram Pradhan and the Panchayat Secretary, and we submitted to the e-Gram Sraj portal. Now, this experiment alone kind of built some belief among the people that our voice is being heard. Right. And then I kept on telling everyone in Tatarpur, Bolo, speak up, because this is not a register. Right. Nobody can challenge that you are not there. Right. And if it is not being solved, you have a right to go to any level.
Right.
So speak up. Right. So digital gives that power in terms of transparency, auditability,
and accountability.
Right. And I'm lucky that Gram Pradhan is a very progressive person and he decided to do that.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that we will conduct 100 more digital Gram Sabha in next few months, and we will try to. First, I need to. So I thought that I will empower a Panchayat. Then I thought that I have to empower a Gram Sabha.
Okay.
So now I'm working to empower a Gram Sabha, because I know if the Gram Sabha will empower, the people will start asking questions to the Panchayat. Then Panchayat will automatically become empowered.
Right. Because in this process, you're making Panchayat accountable.
Right?
Because they are the ones who actually work on those problems.
Right. And once
we are just a medium. I think Empower Panchayat is just a medium to capture their problems, their agitation, their whatever, with the local Panchayat, with the government, right? Different government, local governments. But I think it's the Panchayats who have to take action.
And believe me, whether it's as an individual, as a person, till the time, right, we are not being accountable.
Right.
We don't act. Everyone. So you know that the motivation theory X and theory Y.
Right.
I believe in theory X. Right. So people don't move by their choice. There are very few people who will be self-motivated, self-driven. Right. But otherwise, if I need a stimulus.
Yes.
Right. By choice, I don't want to work.
Right. Only when you're warranted to act, you act.
So the Gram Sabha is that mechanism that will force Gram Pradhan and the government. And if I will,
any inaction on Panchayat's part or the local government's part, right, can cost them the elections.
Yeah.
So this is amazing, and I think kudos to you and the entire Empower Panchayat team to even think of a solution, right, to enable, to empower our local panchayats, our gram sabhas. This is amazing, Amit. You spoke about AI and the role AI played, and also, AI has been an integral part of your life as an entrepreneur, right? Your all three startups, right? There's some elements of AI, right? Let's talk a little about the democratization of AI. Where does the power really lie?
Right now, we are in a completely monopolistic world. Right. So, as an AI entrepreneur, I stacked this whole AI game into 5 layers. So I said that there is a bottom layer that is semiconductor, the fab. Then there is a layer on above that is compute and memory, like processor, right, and memory. Then the one layer above, there is a layer that is called data center, right? And then the layer above is a foundational softwares, right? And then there is a application that we build. All layer below are the monopolistic. So, for example, the last layer is the bottom layer is semiconductor.
Right.
How many players are there? Only 3 players: Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, Samsung, right, and maybe bit of the US, right, is trying to come up, but largely there are only 2 players, Samsung and TSMC. Go one layer above, that is compute and memory.
Right.
How many players you have? It's same, right? You will have Intel, right, AMD Athlon, and now we have NVIDIA, right? So 3 players. Then you go to the one layer above, the cloud, again 3 players. Google Cloud, AWS, and Azure, right? Then you go one level above, like we talk about, let's say LLM, right? Or a ChatGPT, right? So again you have a 3 player, right? Or you take another vertical, 3 player. What driving this whole? So whatever you do in the space of AI, you will end up giving 30% of a revenue to these stack,
right?
And it is not only about the revenue; it is also about the sovereignty and the dependence. Let's say you have built your whole energy infra where you're using AI to rationalize the use of energy. Your whole infra is dependent on these 4 layers.
Right.
Just think from that point of view, that I need to deploy more. I need more compute, right? So where will I go to? AWS or Azure or a GCP where they have deployed? Right. So they say that okay, we don't want to do that right now. India is a lower priority. Right, first we'll give it to this, and if you want, pay me this money. So it's a purely monopolistic game right now, right? So I see, and that's where I'm advocate of a digital public good. What Nandan Nilekani, right, along with his team is doing is a phenomenal work where we are talking about to democratize the technology, right? There has to be a open option for every layer,
right? So do you see, any startups breaking this monopoly? Or see, cost is a factor, right? We can't really ignore the fact that, there's huge investment that you need, right, to set up your own infrastructure, even all these computing resources that
these all are very, so we'll go back to the same question. Because these countries have researched heavily on what you asked initially, right? You favor a Bootstrapped or a
VC.
So these all are VC-led.
Right.
Because to create that kind of a monopolistic position, you have to invest.
The power of money.
You have to have power of money. You have to do that research, right? You have to go to that deep into the research,
right? That
you create that thing that where there is no competition as such,
right?
So where I think we let that raise some way, but I think with the help of a digital public good, we are using the power of our population. We have a play. And I think now we are playing our play very well. The recent Indian AI mission is asking Indian startup to basically get money from the government and at least the concept of
the Indian government has set aside a huge budget to drive this innovation. Right.
And I love FLM and SLM more than LLM. Right. So I said the foundational language model, the small language model. What it says, let's say it's a warfare, right? So first, at least make your space. First, get into the room, and then start hustling a little bit. Start creating your space, right? Then expand. But first, you have to be in that room. And the best place is that your country is their own data, and that's the reason probably I started Simpler Today AI. For the same reason, because I thought for justice and legal, at least we should have our own indigenous system. Though I won't be able to do much about the bottom 4 layers, but at least on a top layer, the software layer, at least we should have
specific to a industry,
right? And later on, put some more money into the research and see that how can we run the whole function on open compute instead of a licensed software, right? And then say that why do you need a GPU from NVIDIA only? Can we do something more like open compute, right? Where I will put up something, a research lab. So you go one level deeper in the layer and try to claim the whole autonomy in this stack.
So how do you see these open source models like Llama, right? Metal Llama competing with these
It's a very interesting thing. Who funds Llama?
Meta?
Meta. Meta itself is a monopoly,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So people ask me a question, right? Red Hat, very good open source,
Yes.
but never challenge the any monopoly, right? So it's an optics game, right? It's a wonderful optics game. It's like that. I will always make something open to everyone from an optics point of view, right? To keep them busy and doing stuff.
Right.
But what is available in the market is always of the better quality of then, right? Open source, right? So eventually it's a consumer who has to take a decision to buy.
Right.
And everyone doesn't take a decision just because it's a patriotic thing.
Right.
Eventually, if you go to the restaurant, you will not start asking whether you have sourced this grain from a farmer whose welfare has been taken care of, right? Or from a farmer, right, who is a wealthier. You want value for money, right? And not everyone is like want to get into the whole the value chain, right? How this is happening, what is the economics, what is the politics behind it, right? So consumer is simple. It's a value for money,
right?
So these open source model are a good model, but eventually we'll end up using ChatGPT.
You think government should regulate AI?
So I was a part of a committee as well on this from the government as an expert, and I'm against it.
Okay.
Right, and why I'm against it, though European Union has decided to regulate the AI to the large extent,
right?
It's like that someone who has to play the game of innovation, they don't need much of a regulation. There could be some fundamental regulations that is more around the sovereignty and the security and those kind of a thing. But largely, we should not regulate because regulation limits the innovation, right? So, but it's the devil is in detail. Still, you can have a regulation that will not limit the innovation. In fact, European Union AI law has tried to do that. It says that if someone is educational institute is doing, it's a researching, and there they say that okay, these are something that is allowed till the time it is meant for the research purpose. But then there are so many restrictions that it becomes economically unaffordable for a startup like me or an entrepreneur like me to do something,
right?
Because then I have to start going into the regulations and everything,
right?
So I think that at least from an Indian standpoint of view, India should not regulate. India should not regulate, and maybe once we have claimed our space, then probably we can start asking for a regulation.
Okay. So I'm
probably right. I would like to regulate, and Indian government is doing that.
Right.
That the no query of LLM should execute outside the Indian territory, neither from a data point of view, nor from a compute point of view.
Right. But I'll play the devil's advocate here. What about then? I mean, you're against it, right? Based on your research and your experience with AI, you think that it is stifling, right? Regulating an AI and it limits innovation. But isn't it a trade-off between security and innovation when you're not letting the government or a body regulate AI?
Yeah. So
what about data security?
Yeah. So you have to find out the use cases. And I think European Union AI law again has done a wonderful classification.
Okay.
So we have to pick up the good things from that law, and that says, for example, right, the justice, whether it is slightly lower in terms of the performance or the usability, right? I should be okay of using it.
Okay.
Because I give the sovereignty and security more importance to the convenience, right? Same goes for defense. US has still a paper-based voting system.
Right, they do.
They do, right? Why? So much amazing in technology, right? So something is good to be little bit inconvenient, because as soon as you bring technology, it brings the monopolistic effect.
Okay. Interesting.
Right? The technology by design is monopolistic. Okay. Let me put it this way, right? So when we were writing the letter, right, it was very difficult to manipulate all the letters those are going on. But if you all are on email, it is easy to manipulate, not like easy, but on a relative scale. Just think that the correspondence that is happening over a letter versus correspondence that is happening over email. I can always put a hook in between, right? I can put something, I can change the algorithm,
Right.
I can manipulate the message, right? You're a general who are sending a message to the commander. I will intercept in between. I will change the dialogue. But in the manual, how will I do that, right? So I have to
always forge a letter, no?
forge a letter. But by the time I will receive the letter, I can see the forging, right? So I'm not saying that from a 0-1 point of view. Just think from the ease of doing it.
Right. Convenience.
Convenience. Right? So, for example, if you have to put the whole grid down and make a state a blackout, if their whole system is running on a smart metering or a smart electricity, right, then it is easy.
Right.
Right now, it is not easy because you have to get to all the power stations to do that. Now, with a single software command, you can put all the power station down.
Right.
So technology by design is monopolistic. And that's the reason, right, the world has started more monopolistic with the development, the advancement of a technology. And ChatGPT is a classic example.
Right.
Purely monopolistic game.
What are your thoughts on DeepSeek? And
Yeah, so I think China is an amazing country, and whatever they do, it never comes out in the market, right? They said that we have built the DeepSeek, I think, for what, $1 million or something,
yeah,
right? Something like
something.
that.
Yeah, I don't know
Right? I don't know, but it was ridiculously right,
inexpensive.
Yeah, so from
Compared
billions of a dollar to a million of a dollar,
Absolutely.
and from a time point of view, right, that building like,
Right.
1 month or something, that's what they are claiming
Right.
for. I think they are. I think they are fooling around, right? And but that's the way they do that to create that buzz. But you know the reality is nobody is using a DeepSeek.
Right. Not many.
Not many.
Yeah.
No, China within their own geography, right? They are a communist country, so
Right.
they will always, they never allowed WhatsApp to enter.
Right.
Right? They always put the
They have their
economic-
own ecosystem, right?
Yeah,
they
they
have their
always-
own version of.
They always put the economics and the security above anything. I'm okay that there is a bit of inconvenience to my people. A technology will be come to my country, right? Maybe 1 year or 2 years later. I'm okay with that, but I will not open the door, right? But in the
Closed ecosystem.
But in the world that we are living in, is that a model? I am not big fan of that model at all, right? Not so. I said that there are 3 models: data for development, data for regulation, data for business, data for surveillance, right? So the China model is data for surveillance. Right? That's why they don't want to enter anyone outside, so that they can put a surveillance on their own citizen.
Right.
What they're doing. Even the WhatsApp they will not allow, because then they will not know what people are talking on the WhatsApp.
Right.
So use their own version so that they can put a surveillance.
Else they lose control.
Right. And the US model is data for business. Right. So they don't care about any regulations till the time we are making money. Right. It is okay. And the Europe has come with the model of data for regulation. I think India has their own model, data for development, and we should be happy with that. And the whole world need development, right? And I think people will align to us.
This is great. So on that note, Amit, thank you so much for doing this. And I had an amazing time.
Thank you for having me here. Same here. Very energetic, very thoughtful.
Your
discussion.
energy is infectious. It is infectious, and I'm sure everybody here, right? I mean, I think you deserve a huge round of applause.
Thank you.